As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. I think a very kind of fun, easy question to start off with here. And the first thing they looked at was followers. They asked 18 plus in a bunch of different countries if you follow any influencer at all. Okay, so not specific to gaming influencers. I'm curious where you guys think the U.S. ranks in terms of the percentage of 18 plus that follow any influencer at all.
Number one.
Do you guys think the top of the chart, the bottom of the charts, somewhere in the middle?
Pretty high.
Top three.
Top half for sure.
And I'm curious in chat what you guys think also, so please feel free to chime in. Let me give you the answer here. The bottom of the chart here, the US, really? Only 29% follow any influencer. This is 18 plus in the US. Interestingly enough, and maybe this comes to, the League of Legends numbers, where we see by far the biggest percentage of people who follow any influencer. UAE number one, Indonesia, India, China. Those are the top four. 75, 73, 71, and 64%. The US comparatively less than half at 29%.
Damn.
Which I thought was interesting. The worst, Great Britain, seemingly cares the least about influencers. Jeff, you got a look on your face. I'm curious.
I'm just thinking. I'm thinking in my head. I'm thinking like, did they define? YouGov must have told these people what the definition of what an influencer was, right? Like,
yes.
I'm wondering if it's like people in the U.S. just don't like. They think they're not like the people that they're like. I wouldn't be influenced. Like I couldn't possibly. It's like I'm thinking like how many people in the U.S. follow like Kim Kardashian? Like probably everyone. You know what I mean? Like way more than 29% of the U.S. like I feel like follows.
There's
Kim
no
Kardashian,
way more than 29% follows Kim Kardashian.
She's got like 1 billion followers.
It would be Kylie if it was anyone. First of all,
even better. I guess maybe I'm thinking like the U.S. people are so arrogant that we don't like think that these people are we're like I'm not being influenced by this person. Like like I follow like Dave Portnoy on social media. That doesn't mean he's influencing me, but like I guess. I would be curious to see what if you looked at people's actual followers, like what the true number is, because this is clearly people reporting.
It's self-reporting, and there's no reason to be dishonest about this, right?
Well, I'm not saying they're being dishonest. I think they might be like in their head they don't realize that they follow influencers. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me bring up the second one here because I think the second one's interesting, specific obviously for the gaming industry, and that is what type of influencers are the most followed globally. And so I'm curious, again, question for you guys here. Where does gaming fall? Top half, bottom half, or middle?
Now you have me questioning
I know.
my gut on this. I'm going to go with top half again.
I'm going to go
top
top 5.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, in the bottom 4. And what we find is food influencers are the most followed globally. With 16%.
That's really not too surprising.
Now, this is relatively, much tighter than the previous slide, right? Like the 9% for gaming versus 16% for the top one, food. And you notice almost all the middle is around 12 to 10%. So gaming's not, it's a bit misleading in the sense that it's the bottom of the list here, but it's not off in an absolute sense. But food influencers are the most followed globally, and 9% for gaming. Now, gaming does beat social activists, reality TV, and other. So there's that. But I think intuitively, this seems right to me because I feel like there's so much growth yet to be had among gaming influencers specifically. Whereas I think food has had more time. It's more accessible sort of in general, right? Everybody eats. I don't know. Anyone sort of have thoughts on this before I move on to the next one? And Chris says, well, this is depressing. Well,
I guess I want to say I'm more surprised that reality TV is lower than I thought it would be, but I'm not really, because I guess the peak of reality TV didn't really align with having influencers, so that makes sense, I suppose. And yeah, I think it's good for the future growth of the industry. Yeah, food, 16%, everybody eats. We've ate for a long time. Everybody knows what they like. So I guess if that's where we have to beat, like, that's a good path to go down, I suppose.
Can I limit? You want the twist here? If they take the same research, okay, but now limit it to men aged 18 to 34, who here thinks food stays on top? Same question, but now instead of limiting to 18
Why
plus.
are your questions so hard?
No, I think gaming is higher.
So the interesting part is if you limit to 18 to 34 men, gaming is number one. Again, by a pretty fair margin. Food drops to number 4. Gaming is the highest. So if you're looking to reach men 18 to 34, gaming influencers is where it's at. That's the interesting twist. I thought.
Why the army is all up in esports?
Yeah, and many brands in general, because this is a very lucrative sort of demographic to be going after.
It's kind of insane. Number 1 globally.
More than sports influencers, more than music, more than food, more than celebrity. This to me, Chris, I knew this was going to turn around. So hopefully you're much less depressed now, because I think this is a very interesting takeaway. And
sorry, Paul.
Jimmy, go ahead. No,
I wanted to add, I feel like this slide is something that we all kind of knew, but the way we got here by comparing, by zooming out for a second and then filtering down was really insightful for me.
Yeah, and the takeaway is gaming influencers are number 1 if you limit it to men 18 to 34. The other this was an interesting slide, I thought, just a bit of a pivot here. But we've talked about this, so I don't want to dive too deep into it. But they looked at total hours watched by platform. So looking at the growing demand for live gaming content. And you see an interesting trend here, right? Facebook gaming, YouTube gaming, and Twitch. Anyone sort of have thoughts on this other than Twitch is really running away with the live sort of gaming content market? YouTube gaming probably going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, their UI is just not great, man, and they just never improved it. So I'm not that surprised.
Now this is outside China, right? So China may skew things as it does. Jeff, any surprises here for you?
No, I think we covered this a lot last week when we kind of did our weekly bashing of YouTube gaming. So I think a lot of what we said last week still applies, how YouTube is squandering this, what is a pretty massive opportunity. Impressed that Facebook is increasing. I don't think that's really the prevailing narrative. And obviously Twitch continues to be dominant, which we most people know that. But, the whole market is going up clearly, which is positive.
I have just a couple more slides here, guys. I want to come back to this gaming influencer thing. So remember 18 to 34 men, if we stay in that thought, right? If we now filter even deeper by country, gaming is the top influencer in every country. This is men 18 to 34, except for France, Denmark, Sweden, UAE, and India. And the only one where it's not top 3 is UAE and India, where for men 18 to 34, gaming influencers are not the most popular. Any ideas why in India, which is a big gaming market? Lindsay, do you have thoughts on this one?
That's so interesting because the very first graph you showed had India in the top 4. And now I forget what that graph was for. Because we
No,
just
that's
For
follow
influencers.
any influencer.
Oh, that's right.
general.
Okay.
Yeah.
um,
So
No,
India's
that's-
big on health and sports and fitness influencers.
There is, I mean, I suppose there is a really big, I mean, like cricket is huge there. So there's a pretty big sports culture. So that one kind of makes sense as to why it's in the top 3. But when it comes to health and fitness also being there, I suppose I'm a little surprised just because I guess I'm more familiar with people being interested in gaming as a hobby. So
Well,
yeah,
keep in
I don't-
mind, it's still dominant for men 18 to 34. Gaming influencers are still tops in just about
Yeah, of
every
course.
country.
It's just interesting. I would have my point is though, I would have guessed in the Indian market that it was a surefire like number 1 or 2. So I'm just surprised to not see it in the top 3, but that just goes to show that I'm not as in tune with the culture as I thought it was. So,
And guys, I'll bring up one last slide here, or maybe 1.5 here. Last slide. We've been talking about 18 to 34. If you look at just U.S. teenagers, the type of influencers that are followed, gaming also does extremely well here. So this is not limited to men. This is men and women. This is teenagers in the U.S. Gaming, the second most important type of influencer, followed by U.S. teens. 36%. Only one that is more dominant is music influencers with 38%. So, this is, for me, when I think about future of the industry and the importance of influencers, these are key trends that I think play into our hand, right? That gaming influencers for the teens that are important now only become more important as they get into that 18 to 34 category. And I have a funny feeling we're going to see that 18 to 34 category, that first slide I showed, shift, or second slide I showed. I think this, at least in the, globally, I think this gaming does increase, does come up this list as the teens age up.